The first thing you should know about this episode is that it's not called The Return of Queen Nehelenia. It's called The Sealed One's Wrath. But don't worry, because we are indeed dealing with the return of Queen Nehelenia. So let's just get started. We open on the Dark Kingdom, which looks like it has been recently ransacked, much to the delight of Queen Nehelenia, who's very much alive and kicking. In fact, she's searching for a certain someone, Mamoru, whose heart is apparently filled with light, which will make for a delicious vessel for her return. She grabs a nearby gargoyle, possessively strokes its stone-cold face, and declares that he will be the one to surpass all the others in power. Meanwhile, at the Haikawa Shrine, Rei is attempting to hammer some sense into Ami's head after she got injured while trying to exorcise a haunted kimono. Rei believes that Ami should leave such things to those who have more experience with the occult, like herself, but Ami isn't having it. She doesn't want to rely on Rei or any of the other guardians anymore and wants to get stronger, so she can stand alongside them as an equal. This stubborn streak is exactly what allows Nehelenia to locate her. As Rei angrily stomps off to go find Usagi, Nehelenia appears before Ami and uses her magic to ensnare her in a crystal coffin, planning to use her as a vessel for her revival instead. Usagi is taking care of some shopping when she suddenly gets a bad feeling. She attempts to call Ami on the telephone, but her calls go straight to voicemail. Worried that something might have happened to her, Usagi runs to the nearest payphone and calls Luna instead, who informs her that Ami has been taken to the Haikawa Shrine. When Usagi arrives, she finds Rei, Makoto, and Minako there waiting for her. They explain what happened to Ami, and Rei points out that since none of them could defeat Nehelenia, their only option now is to seal her away once more. Usagi refuses though, believing that there has to be another way, and she feels that the answer is somehow connected to the strange brooch she received from the Amaziness Queen. Usagi takes out the brooch and examines it, and sure enough, its gem begins to glow when she's near the crystal coffin. She takes this to mean that the brooch is some kind of key to defeating Nehelenia, and if she can't unlock its power alone, then she needs to find the other pieces of the key. The girls split up to cover more ground in their search, and soon Usagi is confronted by the Amaziness Queen. Once again, she explains that the key consists of 5 pieces, and the queen hands over the second piece to Usagi, revealing that she's had it all along. Queen also gives Usagi permission to use the silver crystal as a weapon against Nehelenia, an ability that she has been holding back until now. Suddenly, the Amaziness soldiers appear and attack. Usagi and the Guardians quickly transform and jump into action. In spite of their best efforts, however, they're unable to land a single hit on the Amaziness Queen, and she proves to be a formidable opponent as well. Just as things seem to be going poorly for the Sailor Scouts though, the other Guardians arrive and group up to perform the new group attack, the Star Power attack, which finally manages to defeat the Amaziness Queen. With the Queen defeated, the remaining pieces of the key reveal themselves to be hidden inside the Amaziness soldiers. Usagi quickly collects them all and runs back to Ami. Holding all 5 pieces together, she recites a phrase that she just sort of feels, which causes the brooch to transform into a beautiful white dress. Usagi changes into it, gaining a gorgeous new transformation with the power of friendship and love. With her new powers, Usagi confronts Nehelenia, who is still stuck inside the crystal coffin. She attempted to possess Ami's body, but since she didn't fully understand Ami's heart, she was only able to take control of her temporarily. As a result, she ends up trapped inside the coffin with no way to escape. Usagi attacks Nehelenia directly, who responds by summoning a bunch of gargoyles to stop her. The battle is pretty fierce with both sides landing hits. And although Sailor Moon is winning, she's starting to run out of energy. Nehelenia realizes that this is her chance and begins draining the power from the battlefield itself, using it to heal and grow stronger. Seeing that Nehelenia is growing too powerful to fight, the other guardians jump in to help, allowing Sailor Moon to regroup. Together, they're able to hold off Nehelenia, and Sailor Moon takes the opportunity to try and purify her. But to her surprise, this doesn't work either. It turns out that because Nehelenia has lived in darkness for so long, her heart has become pure darkness and cannot be purified in its current state. Sailor Moon refuses to give up, though, and attempts to attack Nehelenia once more. Just as the battle reaches its climax, Mamoru appears and stops Sailor Moon from attacking, claiming that he has already defeated Nehelenia. He tells her that he knows how she feels because he too has been consumed by darkness. Usagi is confused and concerned, but she can't do anything as Mamoru begins draining her of her energy. She desperately tries to tell him that this isn't real, that he's been possessed by Nehelenia, but he won't listen and continues attacking her. Sailor Moon is eventually pushed back and stripped of her powers, reverting her back to Usagi. She falls to the ground, completely drained. Meanwhile, the other guardians have managed to purify most of the gargoyles, but they're starting to lose hope as Nehelenia continues to grow more powerful. Then suddenly, Sailor Pluto reappears and tells everyone to give her a moment. As Nehelenia grows larger and larger, Pluto performs the final purification, completely destroying Nehelenia and returning her to her original form. As a last-ditch effort, though, Nehelenia uses her magic to turn all of the destroyed gargoyles into smaller minions and begins attacking the scouts and Mamoru. Usagi screams out for her friends, but there's nothing they can do. All of their power is gone. Just as the gargoyle minions close in for the kill, though, Pluto returns and blasts them all away with her new and improved garnet rod. Nehelenia is defeated and sealed away once more. Mamoru reverts back to normal and apologizes to Usagi for what he did, saying that he must have subconsciously been influenced by the darkness within the crystal. Later, the girls are hanging around at Usagi's house, talking about how they need to get stronger. They all realize that although they were able to defeat Nehelenia, she was only a small fry compared to the enemies they'll face in the future. The episode ends with a mysterious hooded figure watching them from afar, implying that a far greater threat is on the horizon. And that's episode 17. Now, normally after a big climactic battle like this, the stakes would feel raised, right? Like the threat level would feel higher and the tone of the show would shift to reflect the loss of innocence and move towards a more serious tone. But somehow this still feels like the same old Sailor Moon. I think part of the reason why this episode didn't land for me is because the stakes weren't really clear. I never really got the sense that if Nehelenia had won, things would actually get worse. Sure, Amy would probably be possessed and maybe the other scouts would die, but it didn't feel like there was anything inherently wrong with being possessed by Nehelenia. I mean, she did bring the scouts together and help them get stronger. And even her plan to use Mamoru as a vessel didn't really make sense to me. Like, why did she need a vessel in the first place? She clearly has plenty of power as is. The best example of her true power is when she was able to turn all of the gargoyles into minions as a last resort. That's pretty friggin' up right there. Anyway, another issue I have with this episode is the portrayal of Sailor Moon. I feel like the writers really tried to force this idea that she's supposed to be some kind of Mary Sue, but it didn't really work. Because of her complete inability to actually win a fight, she becomes more of a liability than an asset to the team, and it kind of sucks. It feels like the only reason she was able to defeat Nehelenia was because Pluto came back to save the day. And even then, all she had to do was recite a random phrase and wave her magic wand. It's not all bad though. The animation and art direction in this episode is pretty good. The fight scenes are pretty epic. The music is great, and there are some nice character moments. I especially liked Ray and Amy's conversation at the beginning of the episode. It was a nice exploration of their dynamic and gave some insight into why Emmy wanted to get stronger. Also, seeing Pluto again was cool, but she shouldn't have had to come back and save the day. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Overall, this is definitely one of the weaker episodes, but it's by no means the worst. I think the biggest problem is that the tone of the episode doesn't match the events that are happening. It's almost like two different stories were thrown together. You've got this dark, gritty story about Nehelenia's return, and then you've got this silly Sailor Moon story about magical keys and crystal coffins. It all feels kind of goofy, honestly. But hey, this is Sailor Moon, so I guess it's kind of supposed to be. If you liked this video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for more content. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.